as written by John Perry Barlow at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, on February 8th, 1996. Governments of the industrial world, you weary giants of flesh and steel, I come from cyberspace, the new home of mind. On behalf of the future, I ask you of the past to leave us alone. You are not welcome among us. You have no sovereignty where we gather. We have no elected government, nor are we likely to have one, so I address you with no greater authority than that with which liberty itself always speaks. I declare the global social space we are building to be naturally independent of the tyrannies you seek to impose on us.
All right. So this is the Declaration of Independence of Cyberspace. I remember a question which was asked in the keynote about the regulations and the legal aspects of the technology. Even the earlier presenter talked about the implications of regulations and laws about the technological innovations we're doing. A session before that, the topic of discussion was adaptability to the change for the business analyst or any other professional working in this particular space. Why? Because technology is taking a center stage, not only in the business, but also in the regulatory space. Because technology is being at the very center of the human existence. And that is the reason we all need to understand this particular phenomenon of technological changes in our lives. The way blockchain is coming up is actually a manifestation of this particular Declaration of Independence. I'll not go through the details of the blockchain, how exactly it works, because Nimai has already covered some of these areas. But I would like to touch on the point about the cryptocurrency. It is changing the way we bank. It is changing the way we transact financially, payments and everything else being changed. Another important aspect is validation through smart contracts. I'll discuss it much in detail in the subsequent slides because smart contracts has a larger applicability than what we can see in terms of the implementation of the blockchain. So these are the two important points which I would really like you to keep in your mind while we discuss the subsequent slides. This one is the very core or very heart of the blockchain technology, that is basically our distributed ledger system. We have already experienced centralized systems, the way we had our IRCTC, the times when we really need to start half an hour before the 10 o'clock time for the Tatkal booking. Then we see a phase of decentralized application of IRCTC. And now, maybe in the future, we can see IRCTC running on blockchain in the distributed fashion. So the changes from centralized to distributed systems has its obvious advantages in terms of trust, immutability. Immutability is a very interesting point in terms of law. You know, we live in India and we are very proud about the concept of jugaad, right? A portion of land is been sold number of times. Literally, every other property, the way we say in Pune, is owned by one or the other politician. Yeah, a normal person cannot buy the property because of mutability. And what blockchain gives us? Immutability. It gives us concrete evidence of the ownership of whatever asset it is. It can be land, it can be your money, it can be your car, any damn thing. So it has enormous applicability. Then consensus. Consensus is an important thing. We're talking, actually I'm speaking here, we all are here in Converge. In Converge, if consensus happens, then the creative thing will come as an output. So in this particular technology, we have consensus. It is not something my way or highway. No. Everybody has to agree whatever things we're doing, whatever operations we're doing is as per the framework which has been agreed upon. Then provenances. we can really have a very tight chain of events in terms of the transition being tracked. Then comes the concept of smart contracts. Smart contracts. Again, this is not something new which has come up with blockchain. It has its origins once again in 1996 when it was first discussed. Smart contract. So we all are from the IT background, right? The basic if and for loops which we write down. What are they? The contracts. If x is equal to 5 to 10, then do condition z. What is that? That is contract. That is what we're doing. And every now and then in our lives we do contracts. I have to speak here at 2:30, so I should be here. That's a contract. If I doesn't come here, they will not sue me. But yes, they will not invite me next time. So that is contract. When we do it in the codified manner or in the software fashion, it has become smart. So nowadays there is a fashion to say everything smart. We are living in, by the way, in smart city Pune. Let's see how it comes up. So this is all about smart contracts. Smart contracts are digital, they are irrevocable, they are embedded, and technology is the mediator here. We have seen mediators in all types of things. In India, we need mediators in almost everything. Passport nikalna hai, we need a mediator. RTO ko kuch kaam karna hai, we need a mediator. But in this particular space, when tech comes in, it brings in a lot of positive things with it, and that is why it has a very powerful application. This is an example of traditional contract. I'll not go much detail about it, but it is very much similar what Nimai has explained. It is all about, let's say, buy and selling of car. Now we have so many web apps, wherein we can sell our cars, but still it's a time-consuming activity. Many a times people are now saying that, if we want to sell car, money would be properly transacted between the parties, and eventually it requires, a lot of time. It will require remittance. It will require expertise. People need to go to lawyers, and lawyers are not that expensive. Are they expensive? They are expensive, right? You guys are awake, right? Yeah. So lawyers are expensive. So these things are there in our traditional contracts. When we get migrated into the smart contracts, what's going to happen is that I want to sell my car. I'll create a blockchain entry with my public key. It will be similar to whatever listings we're doing in our normal web apps. My post will go there. People will see it. Let's say somebody, Bob and Alice are the examples in this particular case. So Bob is trying to sell his car. Alice wants to buy it. Now in this case, what Alice will do, Alice will get into this particular thing. She will read through. If she finds the car is in good condition, the deal is fine, she will enter into it. She will sign the contract with her private key. This contract will list down all the liabilities and risk kind of a thing. Again, there are markup languages are coming in. How should these contracts be written? So these contracts should be written in that fashion. And when she signs it, again, it goes into the blockchain. Another blockchain application will invoke. It will check her Bitcoin or basically, cryptocurrency wallet. It will check whether she has that fund or not. Otherwise counterparty risk will come in picture. So it will check whether she has her funds. If the funds are there, it will release the fund. Funds will be deposited in Bob's account. And the car of Bob, which is again crypto locked, that password, private key for that particular thing will be shared with Alice, and Alice can go and straight away execute her contract and drive the car. It might look a romantic idea. However, we all have seen the transformation. We have seen different connotation of word Bheem in last 2 years, right? Now we know what Bheem stands for. So similarly, this is the potential of smart contracts. It will be very quick. It will be at a very, very cheap, fraction of cost. Lawyers may not be necessary. So my profession might be in danger. And so these are the advantages of the smart contracts. Here is another example of smart contract in terms of banking industry. Wherein, even the equities market or counterparty markets, commodities market, you can actually come up with n number of use cases of its application. So, herein the perception layer can be shared, and messaging and reconciliation layer can also be shared. So it can eliminate a number of things in this particular thing. Now, let's come to the crypto part of it, right? Bitcoin. Just a few days ago, Mr. Kundra was once again investigated in India as well for a 2,000 crore cryptocurrency scam, right? Even there are rumors that Mr. Amitabh Bachchan also has some crypto coins. So what are these cryptocurrencies? I think most of us know what Bitcoin is. However, there are other applications like utility tokens and security tokens of these currencies. Now, we all have heard about IPOs, wherein public offerings for stocks are coming. Now, ICOs are coming. Again, the very nature of crypto and the blockchain and other technologies underneath it are coming up as an alternative to the securities as well. Then, this is the typical transaction cycle of a Bitcoin. I would just like you to focus on the last part, wherein the exchanges come in picture, because that is where the legal and regulators are watching. Exchanges are basically, actually as far as India is concerned, we are not allowed to operate these exchanges, So these exchanges wherein we can actually convert from one cryptocurrency to another cryptocurrency, or we can convert between cryptocurrencies and real and fiat currencies. So that is the thing which again I would like you to remember. Now, this is again from the Accenture research, about the trends in terms of the growth of this particular technology. 2015, I'm talking only about blockchain, not the Bitcoin thing, but blockchain has started, getting the attention after the rise of Bitcoin. 15 was exploration kind of a phase. 16, 17 were early adopters, and that is what we're discussing now. 18 to 24 would be a growth period, and 25 would be the mature thing. So this is all about the revolution. Now, this is the phenomena because of which we are here. The rise of Bitcoin from nearly nothing to $1,000+ and now, stabilizing into somewhere around, $100 kind of bracket. Now, so far, we have seen explosion of libertarian things, right? Everything is good. The world is a very happy place. Every day, every person is, looking at each other and smiling. The picture is really cool, yeah? But liberty has other side of its operation as well. Terror financing, right? We are living in a world wherein good is balanced by bad. But as long as it is with the very nature of individual is fine. But when non-state actors like ICE, which we have seen, for them to operate this particular thing, VCs in general, not only crypto, but VCs in general have helped immensely. And that is where the privacy question, which Nimai was answering. Privacy is the key in blockchain, but privacy has other side as well. That is the darker side, wherein the non-state elements can transfer money without disclosing their identity. And that is where the threat lies. I've just listed 3 cases. First is the Kosovo case, wherein a particular guy, tried to hack a system and then get ransom and transfer it to the ISIS operations. Then the Indonesia particular thing, wherein the terror activist, this guy, Barhoon, he is a jihadist. He planned 2016 attacks in Jakarta. He used PayPal and Bitcoin to transfer funds from Middle East to Java. And the last case is about US, wherein Zubia, this lady, she transferred more than $85,000 to the ISIS. So look at the landscape, Bitcoin and these cryptocurrencies have literally crossed the borders of the nation states. But this cross-border movement of cryptocurrencies has also resulted in the emergence of cross-border terrorism. And that is, it has its root in it. Then the next application is ransomware. We all know North Korea and what is happening in North Korea. In North Korea, WannaCry, yeah? Nobody, we don't want to cry, but WannaCry was a thing which created havoc. It was backed by North Korea. And this is a message, from the WannaCry ransomware. When a particular system has been hacked, they were actually, demanding the ransom in terms of Bitcoin. And they have raised around $140,000 before it was withdrawn. $140,000 is not that big an amount. However, this is a trend which we can see happening and can explode if not been controlled. Another aspect is dark web. Yeah. We all have seen surface web or Google, Facebook, Wikipedia, all these things. These are the surface web. All good things, we can do things. Then there is deep web. Deep web is where our secure documents are kept. All the Fed documents, government documents sit in there. That's good. But beneath the iceberg is something which is called dark web. And the anonymity which comes with cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin is the tool which has been used to trade on dark web. You can see the pistols are on sale on the dark web. You can buy pistols. There's an application wherein you can actually hire contract killers on the dark web by paying in Bitcoins. Yeah. Though in India we work with kattas and suparis, right? So we are much more advanced, but these are the tools, with which things can actually change dramatically. So now we have seen another end of the story, right? We started with declaration of independence of cyberspace with no scope for governance or governments to come in. But these are the examples wherein we need some regulators to come in and sit to ensure that the technology is being used in the judicious way. So that is where the role of regulators come in picture. However, what should be the role of regulators? As Chanakya has said in its Chanakya Niti, that taxation or the governance should be like that of a honeybee. The way honeybee sucks nectar from a flower and help in a way for the maintenance of the entire ecosystem without harming the flower, exactly that way regulators need to come and play their role. Their role should be lubricative. Their role shouldn't be restrictive, wherein the innovation itself can get blocked. And that is where, this lubricative forces we need to see. And I'm glad that we are seeing that sort of response from regulators on all these emerging technologies. Now, what are the legal issues, which needs an address from the regulators? The first part is due diligence. Who are my customers? Who are operating? That's where due diligence comes in. Then intellectual property. As somebody discussed about intellectual property, what are the things about it? Because we would be dealing with Ether, we are dealing with multiple other systems. What are the intellectual properties? Where those rights would be? Would those be with consultant? Would those be with product developers? Would those be with businesses? So these all are the areas. Liabilities. What will happen if a smart contract goes wrong? There's a famous example wherein one of the key members of this blockchain evolution has made a mistake in his code, and as a result, few $1 million were transferred into a wrong account. Now, who's liable for this particular thing? The developer who did it? The business? Or who? So we need to finalize these issues. Then smart contracts. Now, smart contracts is one thing which is changing the way our contract laws are governed. Some state in the US, for example, Arizona, has passed a legislation wherein they are acknowledging smart contracts as a legal instrument. If you go to court, for example, I just sold my car and that car is faulty. It is not as per the specification. Then I can go to the court and ask for the compensation. In the case of smart contracts, courts need to entertain it. By the way, in India, right now, we can't even entertain videographic evidences for normal public. So this would be a big step which needs to come in. Then comes the normal components of regulations. And privacy, by the way, privacy, as I already discussed, is another important issue. Now let's take a look at the global regulatory status. Where does the regulator stand? So green part, which you can see where in Australia, America, certain European nations, these are the countries wherein the blockchain usage are legally permissible. They are coming up with some sort of legislation for that. Then the one which are in gray are literally gray. They don't have any idea what is happening, like Pakistan and most of the African countries. They don't know what's happening. Then there are rates, like Chinese. They're completely hostile. China only wants yen. They only want their stamp everywhere, right? So they are blocked. They are hostile. They are not allowing any sort of crypto sort of things to operate in its territory. India and Russia are contentious. Yeah. So hopefully we really see a progress in this particular space as well. Now, the global regulatory landscape, as I mentioned, there are a number of things which are happening. Really innovative things are happening, like blockchain observatory, sandboxes. Then some countries have come up with specific legislation. Some companies are still, not companies, some legislation. Some countries are coming up with real good innovations in terms of regulatory aspects. We'll just cover it in the next slide. Now, this is the space, or this is the condition in the US. So financial crime, the primary area where my expertise are. So in the US, the government, the Treasury Department has cleared the stand that all the AML is anti-money laundering, and CFT, counter-terror terror financing activities would be tracked like normal currencies. And we have seen one of the exchanges, that is BTC, has been fined for $110 million for non-compliance of the AML valuations. Then SEC, Securities Exchange Commission of US, is treating cryptocurrencies as securities. When it means they're treating as securities, it essentially means that all the security laws of the US will now be applicable to all the cryptocurrency tokens which are being issued. And we have seen a couple of examples just in December 2017 that Plex, Corps, and Recoin are fined for promoting their tokens illegitimately. They were promising threefold returns in less than a month's time. It's like Pandora's box. If you invest in Bitcoin, you get 3 times more the money. And that's the reason their assets are frozen. Then these are the tight examples, the way they say, don't mess with regulators, right? Now let's see another flavor of regulatory operations. This is primarily coming in from UK and Singapore. Primarily on UK is at more advanced stage. What they're doing, they are actually bringing innovators to come into the sandboxes, wherein people can actually play with the real thing, like sandboxes, where we can create our sand castles and see whether they really stand through. So they're calling companies to come together and test the products together in the real markets. They are obviously doing POCs. What these POCs are actually doing, they are helping the startups and the corporates to come and experiment. They are facilitating the policymakers to frame policies, which are informed policies, and they are making even the regulators accountable to the changes in the technology. So this is a very, very nice innovation which is happening. Here is here are some statistical points about the sandboxes in UK. So you would see large chunk is coming from the startups. Yeah. So there were discussions since morning about the startups, how they are featuring into this whole landscape. Startups are playing a very important role. Startups, along with established players, are actually participating into these things. So we have seen a trend wherein big companies like Barclays and Citibanks are partnering up with the startup firms and actually doing some experiments here. Now, these sandboxes are not limited to blockchain or IoT or these hi-fi technologies. They are for normal technologies as well. However, there is a significant trend that DLT firms are featuring very high onto these sandboxes. So these are some of the examples which I picked up from the DLT in the UK regulatory sandboxes. So one example is about using DLT as a mean for transacting between GBP and African currencies. So that currency transaction is been done in minutes. The Zahar transaction, the fastest one took less than 2 minutes. So it has saved a lot of time. Then it has enhanced the transparency as well in terms of these contracts. I will not get into the technical details, but I'll just show you, how these frameworks are helping. Then comes the Swiss regulatory frameworks. Typically, Swiss guys are known for their innovation in managing finances. Swiss banks are known for good and bad reasons. However, in this particular space, they're really coming up with innovative frameworks that actually supports the technology. They have actually, created different set of regulations for the application of cryptocurrencies. If it's a payment application, then AML and CFT rules will apply. If the coin is asset coin, then securities rules will apply. If the coin is utility coins, then it will have utility kind of rules applied. So that's an innovation in the regulatory framework. Similarly, the small players like Gibraltar and Malta, these guys are now this particular space is a new space. There are no backlogs, so everybody wants to start afresh. Somebody referred about Kodak, so Kodak is also coming up with its own cryptocurrency. So they want to reinvent themselves. They want to relaunch themselves. The way companies want to relaunch themselves, nation also wants to relaunch themselves. And that is the reason these countries like Gibraltar and Malta, they have really come up with regulations which are tailor-made. They have certain conditions. You sit with the regulators and get your regulatory framework approved. So depending on the application, you can get your regulatory things derived and framed. Then this brings us to a discussion about what regulators are doing. But when it comes to the part of self-regulation, regulating ourselves, we don't really need all the time somebody else to tell us what to do. There is consciousness in each one of us, in each institute. Similarly, now there is an expectation that all these new ventures should govern themselves. And we can see a trend coming in different countries. For example, in Japan, Cryptocurrency Exchange Association is getting formed. In US, Gemini is leading that effort. In UK, Crypto UK is with 8 companies are forming similar things. Similar is the case with Korea and Africa, South Africa. So these people, they are coming up with their bodies and they are creating regulations for themselves. Yeah. So now comes to my concluding slide. Now people are talking about business analysis as a profession, right? Namita and these guys have already spoken about how every business analyst need to be more open to new learning. Probably I'll add some more points to it from legal and regulatory aspects. So technology, business application, and now the regulatory part as well, right? Because product owners are merged with business analysts are merged with lawyers or whatever you can say it. It doesn't mean that everything is on your shoulder, right? It's not like Chinese Buddha carrying all the, load. But we need to be aware about the things which we are doing. For example, we're testing a particular concept, a POC. Instead of testing it within our organization, can we do a sandbox and get a certification? Because sandbox has resulted in startups getting funding. More number of startups are getting funding if they are certified by sandboxes. So that is where we need to really understand what kind of applications we are working on. What is the scale of application? If our application is serving multiple geographies, multiple countries, then we need to consider legal statuses in those countries, regulatory considerations, regulatory frameworks. Is the regulatory framework supportive or is not supportive? For example, you do the same security or basically simple token activity in Switzerland, you have a different regulation, and the moment you enter in US, you're fine. And the moment you get a stamp from regulators, you're barred. That's the thing which we all need to understand. Then basically the consultation process with regulators. This is an important aspect which I want, we all need to think. See, first is technology which innovates itself, then business that follows, and regulators are the third entity, which is the last step. Imagine their situation to understand these technologies. So it is our responsibility to educate the regulators as well and come up with a framework that is amicable for everyone. So these are the pointers which I really would like you all to take in your considerations, and I'm open for question and answers if there are any.
So I'm a huge proponent of anonymity in the blockchain. And all those examples which you gave earlier around all the crime and the cross-border crime, although they're very valid, I think they happen even without the blockchain. The blockchain was just one way in which it happened. Even before blockchain, cross-border terrorism occurred, and most of the banks were involved in it, right? So to me, that whole thing that happened in the media and the whole Silk Route bit was more the governments and the banks being scared that, right, something terrible is going to happen here for them. But my question was around regulation, right? So I don't mind regulation if it is in the right place. Sometimes we over-regulate to basically help other businesses and other huge banks or whatever, right? Like Barclays being one of them. So how do we ensure that those regulators aren't doing something which is for banks rather than actually doing it for the people? Because I've not seen a single regulation, and if there is one, then I would really like to read about, which is open towards the anonymity, is open towards the true nature of the blockchain being immutable, etc., but at the same time being able to do something else to secure this to happen.
A nice question, and actually it goes to the very classic debate of privacy and anonymity. See, the thing is that when we see the AML and CFT regulations being applied, it doesn't mean that your details are in public, right? It is basically the transactions are screened internally, that is not in the public domain, but that screening needs to happen. Maybe at the level wherein the hands are being shaked at a point between fiat currencies and cryptocurrencies, right? Because it is our also responsibility to stop all these actors, playing a role. Yeah, so that is where the CFT regulations needs to come in picture. Yeah, about your second question, the sandbox example which I have given about UK is all about everybody, the normal, common people, startups, and things like that. I think you can read more about it on FCA website on the sandboxes. As I have also seen in my stats, majority of the companies are startups utilizing sandboxes. So that's one area where in collaboration with regulators is happening. And these sandboxes are now even getting global. So now UK regulator is now doing tie-up with Singapore regulators and US regulators. So they want to bring, uniformity among the regulators as well.